I hope everybody had a good time last night at the Discovery Cove. All right, and having a great time at the forums, as you're probably really used to right now. You can turn the volume down on your ringer, on your phone, and also there's pencils and papers to start asking questions. I could imagine that there's a lot of questions about drones. There's a fast-moving new market, unlike any other market in our industry, right? With lots of difficulties and aberrations and challenges and opportunities. So we have two speakers and a panel session today. Oops, let me see, we're going forward, right? There we go, should go forward. There we go, all right. So we have Todd Chase from Oceaneering. He's, we don't go into, the bios are more thorough in the program, you know, but he is the safety manager for unmanned aerial systems. And we have Lux Luxian from the Assure organization, the Center of Excellence for Unmanned Aerial Systems, UASs. Both of our speakers are pilots and have a background with the United States Air Force. So, you know, we want to make some distinctions, I guess, between toy drones and industrial drones, and we'll certainly do that. We also have Dave Lafferty, who is a consultant with STS Global, has a lot of experience in the oil and gas industry, and actually I think all of our speakers have some oil and gas experience, as we'll see. Let's keep going forward here. I'm back to your presentation, Sal. Can you get me back in mine? All right. Click way up there. All right. All right, so we should go forward. All right, so what's driving the drone market? Regulations definitely are driving the drone market. The FAA is a little bit concerned about regulations. They are concerned about the safety of people, vehicles, transport, privacy. There is a huge number of issues associated with the FAA. The FAA has probably started out by underestimating just how complex this problem was. But the FAA has definitely made some very big progress, and we'll talk about some of the new regulations in our discussions. Photography and movies were some of the first cool things. You know, so you just get your brand new drone from Christmas, right? You got a DJI Falcon with a beautiful camera, 4K resolution. You're gonna take it on your vacation. We're gonna go to New York City and look at the Statue of Liberty. All right, so you can take your drone out, you're gonna fly it around the Statue of Liberty, get some really good photos, go around the World Trade Center. What's wrong with that problem, all right? You wouldn't get too far. You'd be pretty quickly arrested. There are definitely fines for operating. I had a drone briefly, and I just took it up around my house, and I didn't realize that I flew it illegally. I was 4 miles from an airport, all right? And you need to be 5 miles. You saw some very interesting presentation at the Super Bowl with Intel, with a gazillion drones, making a whole fleet of organized, collaborated drones operating in a communicated network of drones. You know, very, very interesting possibilities for drones. There's a lot of technology going in that direction. Racing is another important thing. They'll go in a used sports stadium, and they'll put up these hoops, and they'll have first-person view, and they'll race these things around the entire stadium, all around for time. You know, so there are some interesting pilots. So there's always going to be these hobby activities. Inspection is a huge industrial problem. There's a lot of places that drones can go that pilots can't. All right. You know, some people have, in the drone industry, suggest that never send a pilot to do a drone's job, all right? But basically that means is that there are certain places where you have to carry a human along for the payload that becomes inconvenient, all right, to get to where you need to go, all right? So humans, you know, satisfying all the safety issues of humans, you know, makes for some problems. Mapping and surveying, another huge application for drones industrial-wise. And let's keep going. All right? So one of the questions we have at ARC is, well, what's the market size for drones? You know, ARC recently wrote a strategy report on drones. I wrote that report. And, you know, there are some people who say, well, the drone market's $1 billion. You know, well, what does the drone market consist of? You know, there's the airframe, the batteries, the motor, maybe it has a gasoline engine, you know, larger drones, you know, it could be fixed wing drones, it could be the little quadcopter drones. But there's tremendous amount of market in flight and mission services. All of the gadgets you can attach to a drone, you know, cameras are one of the most popular things for hobbyists, and the quality of those cameras can go up quite high, and a number of other devices, LiDARs, compass, GPS, gyro, sensors, robotics, all right? And then the whole issue of telemetry and how fast you can transmit data, you know, is an issue. Obviously, once you've gone on a mission and you've collected data, a lot of times inspection issues are this way, there's a huge amount of market for post-flight data analysis. Of course, that market could, by some estimates, be 127 billion. You know, so we see a number of different reports, and I think the reason you see such a high deviation is they're not quite sure where to draw the line. Are we just saying that the marketplace for drones is the airframe and the drone itself? That's one market, but really all of the mission planning, mission organizing, mission execution, all the other devices. That's really where I think some of the biggest value add occurs in the drone industry. So some of the places of drones, you might just kind of have a list of a table of different things that drones might do. You know, in some cases, you can use this FAA 107 rule to start a business. You know, I suppose if you had a wind turbine of your own, or you were a wind turbine inspection company, you could, in principle, for $150, get an FAA 107 certificate that says you have gone through the training program. I think it's good for a couple of years, and then you can fly a drone to inspect a wind turbine. And really that certification process will tell you some of those limitations, all right? And one of the big limitations is, for a 107 permit, is that you must be flying within line of sight, all right? You must not go over 400 feet. You know, you must not be, I think, 5 miles from an airport. And some of those are pretty big restrictions. 5 miles from an airport means you can hardly fly in New Jersey, all right? All right? There's no airspace within that's outside of 5 miles of an airport, or a helicopter landing pad, or a hospital that has a landing pad. You know, really there's a huge restriction, all right? And of course, you can go back to the original FAA, and you can still have this today. You can fly outside a line of sight. You can do all drone delivery if you get an FAA 333 exemption. Well, they don't just give those 333 exemptions out, all right? There's a lot of concern and considerations. You'll see them given out for some generally remote areas. So all these kind of cool things that drones can do, and the businesses they can do. ARC did a brief survey, and I think we really will need to do more surveys on this. We asked a lot of industries, do you have a drone policy? And a lot of them said, you know what, we don't. And part of that drone policy may be, you know, especially if you're a big corporate entity, you know, a BP, a Shell, or an Exxon, you know, you want to have a corporate drone policy. You don't want to have each individual facility running their own drone program. So we're going to inspect our distillation towers. We're going to inspect our equipment here at one site. You really want to have an overall program and make sure that gets managed. And a lot of people realized that they needed to have a drone. And in some cases, they needed to have a drone policy even to protect themselves from drones, all right? It's not that they need it necessarily. We're going to execute their own drone division that they're flying drones for various purposes, inspection, et cetera. But, you know, if you may want to protect yourself from drones. In fact, one of the popular drone applications seems to be, you know, I mean, sometimes drones do good, sometimes they do bad, right? A popular drone application is to drop in cell phones and contrabands into prisons, all right? So one of the markets that's evolved is that the prisons have developed drone detectors, and then there's anti-drone technology as well, all right? Because, you know, that's you got to protect yourself from them. Where drones did have an application, certainly the initial tendency on the professional, you know, corporate levels was to hire that function out. You know, they're They don't have their own pilots typically, or if it was a large corporation that had a corporate jet, they probably would go into that part of the organization. But especially to contract that out for any serious application. Things like pipeline or transmission line inspection, that's beyond line of sight. You know, you're gonna have to have a very serious program with serious management and mission control. So what are some of the trends we have? You know, you'll see a lot of military drone companies that are going after the real serious drone applications. You know, they need fixed wing drones. They need drones that can stay in the air for a long time. They need drones that can carry heavier equipment. They might need drones that can be robotically programmed to cover an area. Obviously, drones are increasingly autonomous, collaborative, capable. Obviously, you saw the nice Super Bowl presentation. There's all kinds of other, there's pictures, I saw a collection of drones from the University of Pennsylvania. They were playing an entire orchestra. They were dropping cables back and forth to weave together bridges. They were, you know, small ones. These were miniature ones, but still, there's tremendous possibilities. And keep in mind, drones are all size. They could be down to the size of an insect or up to the size of a blimp, all right? And virtually any aircraft that's out there could be made into a drone. Companies like Aurora Flight Sciences have built a lot of drones for DARPA and other organizations. They basically take any plane and make it a drone, all right? So remote operation. We'll talk about this. Rwanda is a very interesting possibility because I'll mention that they have a very interesting program there. So delivery is constrained by kind of the non-existent traffic control. So imagine that you wanted to have you know, Amazon, Federal Express, UPS, everybody deliver packages by drone, right? So you live in downtown New York City and you want to order a package, and that package needs to deliver, you know, at your address and drop it off at the steps on your front door, or, you know, something, or a landing pad nearby your house. What's the problem with that? Well, first of all, they could be two deliveries at once. There could be multiple drones in the air at once. They could collide. There's telephone wires, there's obstacles, there's planes, there's cars. You're flying over cars, you're flying over people. This is a really big problem, all right? And the FAA does not want you to crash into people. They don't want you to disrupt traffic. I did see down in Mexico that they were advertising some event, and they had 8 or 10 drones going up and down the highway carrying signs, put them right in front of the driver's window so they wouldn't miss this event. Get off at this exit and come to our restaurant or party, all right? All right, so, you know, that wouldn't fly here in the US, all right? The FAA would whack you for that, all right? And aircraft, I don't think, are certified to fly over people yet. I don't know of any. Well, maybe there are some drones that can do that. I mean, a commercial aircraft could be considered a drone at a time if it's remotely piloted. Obviously, you know, there could be a trend to see attacks on people and infrastructure. There's obviously a lot of concern about that. You know, there's a lot of drone history in the military. That's where the biggest, most sophisticated drones started from. Everyone could imagine that a drone could be chasing them down the street, and, you know, and have the big problem that this will happen. And you better believe that at sporting events like the Super Bowl or the Boston Marathon, that there was drone detection going on in the neighborhood. There was anti-drone technology available there to go drone versus drone, to knock those bad drones out with our good, bigger, faster, better drones, or interfere with the communication. You know, this is back to the Mad Magazine spy versus spy world, all right? You know, our drone is faster, bigger than yours. We can capture your drone. We're gonna knock your bad drone out of the sky, all right? Obviously, things like collision avoidance is being built into some of the drones. I know this latest DJI you can try to fly it right in a wall, and it'll say, nope, I'm not going to fly into that wall, all right? And it'll stop it, all right? And a lot of drone operators have flown into trees and have their drone sit at the top of the tree, or and then of course there's always at least in the hobbyist section, the drone flyaway problem. Your drone flew away until it ran out of its batteries, all right? And it might be hard to find that way. So in any event, there's unbelievable improvements in the gadgets you attach there, the photography, the infrared, the spectral photography. In fact, one of the biggest markets for drones appears to be in farming. They run drones over fields in farms to get the spectral analysis. They can figure out which plants are dying, which plants have insects, which plants don't have enough water. They can apply fertilizer and irrigation only very appropriately. They can save a ton of money. When one farmer talks to the next farmer at the farmer's market and tells them how much money he saved, that farmer's going right after it too. All right? And word is getting around in the farming industry that you can make money on large-scale farming with a drone inspection of your fields. I mean, because imagine you can run a drone inspection every day, every week, or every frequency, and you can collect all that data over the whole history. You can see the entire propagation of your entire crop over the whole history of that crop and see what you did. Go back after the fact and see what you did wrong. Sampling, sensing. There's just so many possibilities for drones. It's an amazing. And I know that we haven't figured them all out, you know. And then there's a possibility that drones could start moving people. All right, there's a few companies out there that might be able to pick you up at your door with a drone, all right, and deliver you. All right. So you know, there's a couple of other issues going on in the market. You know, Google and Facebook. They gave up internet by drones. You know, that was a recent announcement there. They gave that up. It didn't seem like it was feasible. They couldn't keep drones up in the air for some reason. Rwanda has a countrywide delivery service in place today. They can service almost the entire country by drone delivery, all right? And you might appreciate why somebody like Rwanda would do that. First of all, they don't have quite the safety standards of drones over people. Now, these are fixed-wing drones. I think a 5-pound payload or so, medical supplies and things like that. You know, of course, it's also, if you ever have driven in Rwanda, I haven't, but apparently their roads are very poor infrastructure and not passable all times of the year. So drone delivery is in place right now in these rural areas like Rwanda. All right? Who would have thought? All right? You know, Amazon applied for a 333 exemption. They wanted to deliver packages to the door. The FAA said, "You got to be kidding me. There's no prayer, all right? We'll let you practice on some of our FAA-approved airspace. We'll give you a permission to fly in this very remote area to practice, you know. But we don't have the, you know, the FAA has this flight control system that handles commercial aircraft. Obviously, these guys will know a lot more about that than I do. But that system does not work well for drones, all right? And not only that, there are now more drones that have been registered than all the commercial aircraft. So drones are growing much faster than commercial aircraft. You know, drones are small, easy to build, and some of these are teeny drones. But so, in any event, here's you know, racing programs. Here's the Skypan. They were one of those guys that wanted to go take some pictures. I don't know where it was, Statue of Liberty, but you're not going to take a drone into State Park. There's an awful lot of limitations. You might be disappointed when you got that drone for Christmas that you just can't go out and take that thing anyplace, all right? You know, you've got a lot of really serious restrictions that you really need to know about. And, you know, if you get a $200,000 fine, you know, that's definitely a discouragement, all right? So there are fines. Probably, you know, the FAA didn't catch me when I flew 4 miles from the airport, and I'm sure that there's all kinds of hobbyists that are not following all the rules. So there we have it. Where are drones headed? All right. You know, maybe this is a European Space Agency project here called Lilium. This is a small 2-passenger drone, 300-pound payload. I think 400-pound payload, 300-mile cruising range, 250 miles an hour top speed, vertical takeoff and landing. Plug it in your backyard, and you can go to commute to work on that. Now, who would want to go to commute to work on this at 250 miles an hour? All right, probably better than your car. All right, or maybe you really didn't want. You know, this was really meant for fairly wealthy pilots, I guess, sport pilots. But maybe someplace in the future, you know, some drone operator would have this land at your house just like Uber and deliver you to your destination. Probably at a little bit of an expense at the moment, but these kinds of activities, there's a lot of research programs for drones of this caliber. In any event, I'm going to pass this off to Todd, you know, and I am really looking forward to these presentations because I have got a lot to learn in this space.